Hi, everyone. The mission of the Newsa-Cast is to carry on the tradition and services of the Red Smith Sports Award Banquet that was held in Appleton for 57 years. The banquet has raised over $1 million for youth sports in the area during that time. And as we work up to a live event again, we have developed the Newsa-Cast podcast. Through conversations, we highlight the stories right here from our own backyard. And just like at the Red Smith Banquet, we highlight the youth of our area, the coaches, the schools, and even local influencers that make our community great. If you would like to help us continue our mission, please head over to redsmith.org to donate. On today's Newsa-Cast, we are joined by recurring guest Nick Salm. We talk football. Nick wrote a book called To Coach. It's a blueprint guide for coaching youth football. And Tosh and I take an old look at new, which is brought to you by Raleigh Winter and Associates. We then do a Red Smith throwback to 1990. WiIllie Davis. That was a great year. WiIllie Davis, Larry Zonka. But we highlight WiIllie Davis on the Newsa-Cast YouTube page. Like and subscribe. Tosh and I end the show like we always do with a little It's Forgotten. And I'm never forgetting. So what do you say, folks? Let's get this show on the road.
Failure is just a huge part of it, right? But you can't let it get in the way of these kids. And failure affects performance. You have to help them overcome it. And I will say it is harder at the youth level because there's a lot more failure.
Welcome to the Newsa-Cast. What is a Newsa-Cast? It's where we bring local folk stories to life through conversation.
All right, Newsa-Cast listeners, it is time for us to put out another episode of the Newsa-Cast, and we're excited to bring back this week a return guest, and we're bringing back the one and only Nick Salm, who's pretty well known in the football realm here in Northeast Wisconsin, and he's doing a little promotion of his book he just wrote.
Yeah, so well known, Tosh, so knowledgeable in football, especially youth football, that he wrote a book called To Coach, and it's a little blueprint of how to coach. If you're a youth football coach, there's game plans, there's scheduling, there's how to communicate, how to deal with parents, how anything you can think of, no stone goes unturned, and how to be a coach from practice day one to the last game of the year.
That's pretty awesome. He's a good guy, knows his stuff. He's been around the sports world here in Northeast Wisconsin his entire life, and you had the opportunity to sit down and talk about that book, so I'm sure our listeners are going to love that. He's good talker. He's great for an interview. I know that from the last time we had him. We could have went on for hours longer, but I'm glad you got to sit down with him and talk about that and his experience.
We set a timer, Tosh. We said 1 hour. That's all we're going to go. The buzzer went off and we ended it.
There you go.
But you're right. Nick, legendary talker.
But yeah, that should be good, and especially with football season starting here. The high schools all started football. They're going into their second week of practice, official week of practice, and we even start football games in just under 2 weeks.
Well, we kind of have different roles now. I used to be excited getting ready to officiate. I don't do that anymore.
Yeah.
But you can kind of feel it in the air, see it in the sky as the sun. You get a little less sunlight each day, and that to me is sort of the sign of football and high school football. But you're right, it's coming quick, and the FVA, we all know some of the best schools, best play are right up here, and you and I will get some interesting guests that touch that world. And AppletonSportsPage.com, Paul, he does a great job of covering the Appleton schools on a weekly basis. And you're down in Oshkosh, you keep us up to date on Oshkosh North, so it's going to be a heck of a football season, Tosh.
Yeah, it will be. Excited to get the fall sports underway. We have lots of good high school action throughout the entire Northeast Wisconsin. We just have, it's a hotbed for sports. So it doesn't matter what you're doing. You hop into a field, watching, whether it's soccer, whether it's volleyball, whatever it is that you want to take a look at, it's going on in the fall here, and it's going to be exciting because we always have good teams that make runs at state titles in Northeast Wisconsin.
Yeah, no doubt. It's fun to watch. I love it. And I know you have. Did I hear Halliburton came back and visited you at school the other day?
Well, Halliburton will come back. That's going to happen on the 15th. So the day after this comes out, we're renaming the field house at Oshkosh North, the Frank Shady Field House. And Tyrese is coming back. He's going to be on crutches, so it's going to be a little bit of security and stuff. But he's coming back for it. He's still well tied into Oshkosh North. He runs a camp at Oshkosh North every year. That's coming up as well. He still has some pretty big ties to Oshkosh area, so it'll be good to see him. He's just a fantastic person, and hopefully he's doing well on his journey back from that torn Achilles. And we won't probably see him this year, but hopefully everything recovers as normal, and he's able to come back the following year and help the Pacers win a championship.
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool. Yeah, that's awesome to see. Local kid does well. That doesn't happen every day, especially in our neck of the woods. So yeah. Pretty cool indeed.
Yeah, maybe I'll be lucky enough to post a picture on our socials with him. We'll see what happens.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Other than that, Tosh, how about you have a good week? Anything new in your world? Getting ready for school?
What? Yeah, just getting ready for school. It was I disappointed that I missed Mile of Music, but we were down in the South in the heat. Felt like Kenya every single day, as Tim Fish would say.
Yeah.
115.
Shout out Tim Fish.
Shout out Tim Fish. It was 115 feel like by 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock in the morning down there some days. So it was a little warm.
That sounds like we had the perfect weather for Mile of Music. It was you literally could not ask for better weather from start to finish. Other than the smoky skies, we got hammered by the Canadian wildfires. It was hazy skies. But when you have a music festival and you have lots of really cool lights at all different stages and you're downtown, the hazy sky is actually made for fascinating and beautiful skies. So cool waters at the Emmett stage. That Emmett stage behind Emmett's is a huge stage. That is a really, really great place. Tay and the Neighborly followed by, I saw Tay and the Neighborly there one day, but then I saw Bermuda Search Party followed by local band Cool Waters, and that was pretty electric. And that was one of the nights where the sky was just purple and pink and yellow and all different types of colors because of the Canadian wildfire smoke.
Well, Bermuda Search Party, I wish I would have seen them. I saw them last year. Listened to them quite a bit. They're on my playlist. Yeah. They're a fun band. Definitely. Them and Post Sex Nachos from last year as well were two bands that I wanted to see again, but I didn't get a chance to. So hopefully they make their way back. I know they're both playing all over the place. So it's kind of it's good to see those bands come back here to Appleton.
Yeah, definitely. They pop in and out, in the Courtyard and Gibson's, and then so many of these bands have variations of the band. We've talked about the Millbillies in Milwaukee. Great bluegrass band, but they break off and have like Valley Fox, which is just a 3-piece, but just an insane trio that's just as good as any band you'll ever see. So. The music is alive and well. We're in such a great spot for that. It's just we've talked about it over and over, but it's so true. I love where we're at with music and venues. And Tosh, we're in a good place here in Appleton, Wisconsin.
Yeah, absolutely. There's so much music everywhere. You go to the Vineyard at Ledgestone. Yeah. Check out great music there on Thursday nights. Everywhere you turn, we have excellent music. And as we know, it wouldn't be like this without the Mile of Music. And, if you didn't get a chance, go back and listen to some of those podcasts, those interviews, especially the one with Dave Willems. Yeah. It's fantastic. It talks about how he started it and what his idea was and all of that. So you definitely go and check that out.
Yeah, definitely right. And Kim Williams and has there's so much that goes into putting on a festival like that. So yeah, it's interesting stuff. You and I have had fortunate to sit down with some of the artists. We probably have a half a dozen to 8 different artists that you and I like to talk to, and they have great music. So no, it's cool as can be, Tosh, and I'm glad that I'm glad we can kind of highlight that a little bit.
Yeah, that's good. Yes, fantastic. And Packers started this past week as well, so preseason is underway. Short, a little bit shortened preseason now, only 3 games, but they'll kick the rust off and get ready. You can't put too much in the preseason, and we'll get ready for the regular season. And did I just see that the regular season, the Packers are kicking off with the Black Crows?
I did see that too. That's kind of bizarre.
Yeah.
Where is that going to be in the parking lot?
I think so. I think that's where they do that. I'm not positive, but I thought I saw the Black Crows are coming for their green and gold weekend or kickoff weekend for their home game. So
I saw that. I always liked those guys.
Yeah, they do a great job. I like them as well. So they put on a good show too. So go check out the Black Crows in a few weeks as well.
I'm sure Taylor, our producer and editor, he does the Packer Universe podcast, and those guys will probably if you want Packer news and event news surrounding the Packers, I'm sure Taylor will set you straight on that.
Yeah, absolutely. Go check that podcast out. It's fantastic as well. Yeah, anything you want to know Packers, they cover it. So check that out for sure.
Hey, Tosh, I saw Major League Baseball history was made. First female umpire a couple of days ago. She, you and I are recording on a Sunday. I think today she's actually working the dish.
Absolutely.
Jen, I think it's pronounced Powell. Powell? P-A-W-O-L. I don't really know how that's pronounced, but that's what we're going to go with. But yeah, that was pretty cool. I was watching some clips of that, and it's about time. I feel like they might be I don't know about hockey, but I feel like baseball might be the last one. There's female officials. Football, NFL has had them for quite a while here, for several months. Sarah, forgetting her last name, but I think she's an excellent official. She's been a line judge for several years in the NFL.
Yeah, I don't know if the NHL has females reffing, but there's a female presence as far as coaching and into administration for the teams as well. So yeah. But that's fantastic. I think she worked the Atlanta Braves and Miami Marlins series. Yeah. So really cool. That's amazing. That's so awesome to see.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we're big fans of the officials, no doubt about that. And he mentioned or somebody mentioned the WNBA. I guess we probably shouldn't get into that. Things that are being thrown on the court, but it's been a bit comical.
Yeah, it's been something. We won't get into that. But you know what? They've had a huge boost in viewership as well. Right. And there's lots of, news stories and everything else. And, it's fantastic to see. They're filling stadiums and putting in good crowds as well. So, yeah, check out that also.
Yeah, no doubt, Tosh. No doubt. Well, I suppose we should kick this show or put this show on the road, like we like to say. I'm a little stumbly here, Tosh. I've had too much sugar. I've had a weekend of cheesecake with lemon across the top. I went to Stuck's on Friday with one of my boys, Owen, and then I'm telling you what, Tosh, I found the deal of the century in little glass jars at Aldi's. They were blowing them out for 59 cents. It was cheesecake with lemon on top. So I have been crushing lemon cheesecake this weekend, and I don't think I've had that ever in my whole entire life. And now I can't stop eating it, but I think it's made me a little bit jumpy here, Tosh, so we better get this show on the road.
That sounds good.
It's that time again, once again, for an old look at new, brought to you by Raleigh Winter & Associates, celebrating 55 years. Did you know that in 1962, an Appleton junior high school teacher with a strong work ethic started a residential realty company? His name, Raleigh Winter. 3 generations later, the Winters still hold true to a strong work ethic and an excellent reputation in the community. Today, Raleigh Winter and Associates remain actively involved in providing retail, office, and industrial users an affordable, well-designed working environment through the creation and/or acquisition of quality real estate in the Fox cities and even beyond new. So what do you say? Let's take an old look at new.
All right, Newsa-Cast listeners, we're coming back, and we're going to take a little look at history like we have in the past, and we like to call it an old look at new. So, Joe, what is your old look at new this week?
Well, Tosh, I stumbled across this on my Facebook feed, but you know when you're driving out west of Oshkosh, out near Omro, I'm blanking on the highway there, but there's this really weird, like 7 or 8 story building. It's abandoned. It sort of looks like there's a 2-story house, and then you got like a 7-story just bricks and lookout tower or whatever. And nobody ever really knows what it looks like. It looks like maybe some old military thing. It's as big as an airport control tower. So never really sure what that's for. But according to this article that I grew up in Wisconsin, this tower was constructed during the peak of Wisconsin's fox ranching era, which spanned, I didn't even know this, from 1920 to 1945. During this time, Wisconsin produced over half of the fox pellets in the U.S. fur market. That's insane. And they probably did that too, right? When they're coming down the Fox River and Wisconsin River, there had to just be so much beaver and fox around here, I would imagine. But anyway, this was part of the American National Fox Breeders Association. They had guidelines for building these towers. The second and the third floors were living spaces. There was storage on a few levels, and the very top level was the observation room, and that would then view the rows and rows of fox pens. So they were, they were breeding foxes here, and this was their way of that. This was the keeper stayed and their view. So after World War II, the fox industry kind of took a dive and was no more. And obviously, as we drive down the highway, we see that building is no more, but a abandoned looking thing. But I thought that was curious. I think I'm 55 years old. I always wondered that my whole entire life, what that thing was. So
yeah, I've driven that road a lot, and I've never knew what that was as well. So There you go. Learning something new today.
Giddy up, an old look at new. That's why we did this segment. Well, Tosh, how about you? What are you going to take a look at?
Well, I think, we would miss the mark if we did not talk about this as an old look at new. And that is because they were such a big part of the Red Smith Banquet. We got to talk about Miller Lite being 50 years old.
Oh, yeah. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday. They just had the toast across the was the worldwide toast of Miller Lights.
Did they
just
really?
Like last week, Friday, or a couple weeks ago. They're giving away Miller Lights in certain bars across the country. 50 years of Miller Lights. They brought people to the Red Smith Banquet. I mean, without Miller, we would not have had maybe we wouldn't have had like the Bob Ueckers and all of those types of guys, Art Donovan's. They are a huge piece of the history of the Red Smith Banquet. And so you got to talk about Miller Lights. I mean,
tastes great, less filling.
Tastes great, less filling. I have to say, it's probably one of the first beers that I had.
Yeah. Weirdly, Tosh, I haven't had a Miller Lite in forever, but I had 2 of them last night right out of the can, that white can, the old classic light logo across it. It was actually pretty good. It's been a hot summer here, at least a hot couple of weeks, and that fine Pilsner on a hot summer night, there's legit nothing a whole lot better than that.
Absolutely. That is true. That is very true. So that's cool. At 50 years, I mean, that's pretty impressive. So
I remember you talk about the Red Smith Banquet. I remember my dad had this cool binder book, and it was the portfolio of those great commercials with all the former athletes, the Miller Lite commercials, but you could almost pick anybody in those commercials, and Miller would bring them into the banquet. So we had some great guests that came from that era. Those were so good.
Not only were those fantastic, but so were the buckets of Miller that were sitting on the tables.
every table, you're right, Tosh. So every single table, and in that time, we would have had 15, 16, 1,700 people would have been at the banquet. Every table had a bucket of beer, little shorties. So everybody got beer with their meal. Of course, there were bars there. I remember that was for a long time in the 80s. That was the biggest selling alcohol night for the Paper Valley Hotel. Can you imagine? I mean, it's just nuts how much beer was sold those years. All Miller, Miller High Life. What is Miller High Life? The champagne of beer, right?
Champagne of beer. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. On behalf of the Miller Brewing Company and the Red Smith Committee, it's my privilege to welcome you to this annual banquet, and we're so proud that you people have done so much to make it as successful as it's been. And if it weren't for the Miller Brewing Company, we might be out of one of the drive-ins.
Yeah, there's kind of a should I say a comeback for that type of beer. Lagers and stuff are making a big comeback, and we had so many IPAs and everything over the past. We still do, but lagers are making a comeback, and so those lagers and those pilsners, like Miller Lite, are even craft breweries are making those. So you can check out your favorite one.
Absolutely. A good Pilsner in the middle of the summer, maybe after you take a walk or you cut the lawn. I mean, that's a great, it hits a little bit different. You're right. I love IPAs as much as anybody, but sometimes they're a little bit too heavy in certain spots. A good Pilsner. I'm thinking too, remember, it's so weird because I remember, and I'm sure you do too, in Miller Genuine Draft, that was kind of a thing too. When that came out, that felt like that was big time at that time.
Yep, absolutely. So 50 years of Miller Lite. Thank you to Miller Lite. Thank you for bringing those amazing guests to the Red Smith Banquet and letting us hear some amazing people tell some funny stories. We never, can't forget that. That's a classic look at some history as far as the Red Smith Sports Banquet is concerned.
Absolutely, Tosh. And I always remember the sales reps, the guys that represented Miller Brewing in Milwaukee, Sig Wysocki and Dennis Basie, two of the greatest guys you'll ever meet. And if you check out any of our throwbacks at the Newsa-Cast YouTube page, when we do the Red Smith throwbacks, a lot of those guests that we have, the introduction is done either by Sig or by Dennis. The Nice Guy Award at the time, that would have been the Miller Nice Guy Award. So check those out. A lot of those times, those guys were polished. I love those guys. I often wondered if they're still alive. It's kind of a weird question, I'm sure, to ask, but I don't know. I hope they are. Shout out those guys if somehow they ever heard this.
Absolutely. Well, sit back and tip back a Miller Lite and enjoy the podcast. All right, it is time for our interview. I didn't have a chance to sit down. Joe tackled this one by himself, but we get to sit down with Nick Salm, and Joe talks to him and catches up on his book called The Coach. Nick is a huge part of Northeast Wisconsin. As far as the sports is concerned, he's really integral in what we have today as far as youth football. Went to Appleton North, played at Appleton North. He's coached at Appleton North. The Salm brothers have played a huge role in the success that Appleton North has. So we've sat down with Nick before, but this is really going to be a chance to sit down and talk about that youth side in his book. And you're going to sit back and enjoy it. So sit back, go pick up a copy of Called the Coach, and listen to Nick Salm describe his experiences.
You run into a lot of people that say, I should write a book. My life experience is unbelievable. I'm going to write a book. But nobody writes a book. But you wrote a book.
Yeah, I think a lot of people lost bets.
Yeah. Oh, no doubt.
On that. I would have.
Yes. How do you write a book? I mean, literally, how do you write a book?
No idea, right? And how it started is I had this path with the AYFA. We started it in 2015. First season 2016. I had some earlier roots when I graduated or retired, left football in college, 97. The very first year, my uncle Glenn Higgins called me and said, "What are you doing?" I was trying to start a career in finance and so on. And then he said, "Well, do you have enough time, maybe a few days a week? Can you help me run Danny's Pop Warner, sixth grade Pop Warner team?" And I'm like, "Wow, I guess, yeah, let's try it." I had an absolute blast, right? And it was really it's an awesome way to get into coaching because there's zero stress. You're literally dealing with fifth and sixth graders. They come from all likes, and the experience, and maybe it was with Glenn and a couple of the others that helped to make it that way. But I went from a pro set style offense where we're running audibles and all kind to trying to teach some brand of football. And so for 2 years, I did the Pop Warner thing. What an awesome organization. And then Mike Weinberg called me from Appleton North and said I could use some offensive help at our freshman level. So in 2000, I went over there and started at North. I've been there since. And you kind of grew up through how that was all done. And then in the meantime, I started family, and we did a bit on the AYFA, so I'm not going to dive too far into that, but we started the 6th through 8th program in Appleton, and taking my kid through that with learning all the things about what to do, really what not to do. There's so much more about what not to do. And that was 2016, 17, 18. And I'm a believer that if you really believe in your son's class, then you got to believe in the class before and the class behind as well. So I thought it would be the right thing to stay on. And I was the head coach for 8th grade again with the class after my son. And removing all the kids I knew and learning the new kids, it even made me a better coach. And I know Pop Warner always preached that, you never know until you coach a team without your son. And, and they were right, actually. And so this 19-year kind of goes through, and it was like an absolute error-free coaching. We had great staff, just awesome guys. I had a couple of the guys that had coached our group the year before that stayed on with me with the same mentality. Yeah, I'll stay with you. So, Ben Hulke and a couple of those, the guys that and they stayed on. And, oh man, we just had the greatest time. We ran right through the conference. And after that, I thought, man, I should write down some of the stuff that I did and worked. Because, so many times you reflect after a season on what didn't work and what would I do different. And so many things worked. I thought, my goodness, I should write what worked down. Because I'm well versed in what doesn't work at this point. And so I started writing it down, and then Rob asked me back to the high school level for the spring, the first and only spring season of football following the COVID nightmare. And then I've been back on varsity JV at North since then. But once I stepped from the AYFA stuff, the coaching in the middle school, then I was kind of the mentor for a bunch of upcoming coaches. I had done it all along and mentored coaches while starting the AYFA at all three schools, at East, West, and North. But then now I was primarily just helping them and doing, you're very busy when you're doing varsity and whatnot. And so I started writing all this stuff down and writing it down. And just like you said, Joe, it's like, man, I should just write a book. Like I should put it in a book and I can get it out to the masses. Well, to your point, I don't know what that meant, right? So you go into Word doc and you just say, book writing, and it really does just give you a template that is super generic. And you don't, the advice I'd give is you need to know your topics, and you'll be wrong about them. And I'll get into that. But you need your topics. You need to know what you really want to say in the book. And then you'll rewrite chapters back. You'll go in front of one, you'll move them around. But what ends up really happening is you start organizing your thoughts in a much more balanced manner. I would invite anybody that has gone through 25 years of anything, start writing it down, because man, that's a wealth of knowledge, and all the mistakes you've made, you make a lot less. And that's really a lot what the book is about. The book, the intention is to, when you're the title Called to Coach, because we're just a bunch of dads and we have a calling. They need a coach, and we need somebody to step up and plan and organize and teach. Right.
Well, that's a good spot. Not to interrupt, but right at the beginning, I mean, literally the first page, you open up, you Called to Coach, and it's that I may serve. I mean, you literally, that's your philosophy at the core, isn't it? Is that you're serving, you're serving the youth. The book, although any football coach can use it, it's primarily geared towards the youth coach. I mean, I like the format, just that blueprint. It's a literal blueprint. I can't talk. Blueprint of how to coach, laid out that way. It's not a, I really, really like the format. I feel like this should be in the back pocket of every coach. But what really intrigued me was that you look at coaching as serving. And I don't know if that's a very interesting philosophy. And as a parent, I think that's probably appreciated.
Yeah. And I thank you for bringing that up. I mean, it is right. But volunteering, that's kind of the premise of all volunteering. And I've turned on a lot of paychecks coaching in my day, but you don't get into middle school and youth looking for a paycheck. You're looking for a positive experience. And that's really what it comes down to is, as a coach, don't get caught up in, hey, we're going to be a winning team and we're going to just put the formula together and your team will either win or they won't. But it's all about the experience. I used to say this all the time was a true record for a youth coach doesn't come until registration the next year. And if you lose kids, then your record's not so good. You might have won every game last year, but you lost 7 or 8 nice kids that didn't stay with it for one reason or another. And, with these kids and especially at the middle school, high school level, you start seeing the difference between a 6th grader and an 8th grader or a 9th grader and a junior. And these kids are growing so much, and physically and mentally, and, for them to step away for the wrong reasons, shame on you. And when you get that record, and if you say, hey, we got more kids out and we didn't lose any from last year, now you are a good coach.
Right. Absolutely. I love that as a marker. And I mean, as a former official, you're right. So many of those coaches get caught up in 2 things, the win-loss record. And for some reason, I feel like so many coaches just want to live out their NFL dream. Their play calls are way too complicated. It's just, they make the game way, way too complicated. And I feel like that's just a kind of an ego thing for them. And I just, that's why I really, really like you're there to serve. And you even talk about it, a couple of paragraphs in where you don't even talk about the fundamentals of football necessarily. You're talking about youth football is about developing the athlete, right? The building the character, instilling discipline, and creating lifelong memories. That's your words. And that's really the core of coaching. It's not the X's and O's. That's probably about 10 on the list of things to do, isn't it?
Yeah, and I try to break it down into 3, and then when you break out the 3, then it gets kind of into the weeds a little bit. But really, if your goal is to serve your community, and in the capacity of a youth coach, really the fundamental challenge, and it shouldn't be a hard one, but is to protect children. Like, these are our community's children, and they're asking to participate in some opportunity. This example is tackle football, and there's some safety things and so on and so forth. But really, that first one, and you can really break it down into a lot of different ways, is protecting the children from you sometimes by making sure your words matter and they're not in a manner in which pile on to a kid that's already trying hard but not being able to do it, or protecting them from maybe their dad that's also a coach and maybe is harder on them than the other kids. And then the kid has to say, I don't like my dad coaching. And, that relationship is precious and coaching shouldn't ruin it. And, a lot of times, and I didn't have this issue, but who knows, perhaps I did to a degree and didn't even know it, but I coached my own son a long time. And most of the time I would have other dads or coaches say something for me, because I didn't want to ruin the relationship on my account, right? Because the kid's not going to say anything to hurt your relationship. You are. So protecting children is really, I think, if you get that far and you really do hammer that, and you did a good service.
Yeah.
So, and then the coaching part, really where it starts after you can, and it goes into all the protection of the children, from the other kids, even sometimes, or from bullying or whatever. All of it exists. You can't deny it. I've done this a long time, and I've seen, maybe it's not every year in some of these things, but you protect the kids from themselves. They'll beat themselves up so bad sometimes because they want to be just as good as Johnny, and they're not. Well, you know what, Johnny, you might be better than Johnny in 2-3 years or whatever, but you'll likely be much better than Johnny in something else, if not.
Right.
So don't get caught up on it right now. You be your best version of you, and because it's an awesome one. And kids just need to hear that. They need to be thought of like I'm special just because of me, and I'm good. But I think then with the coaching part, and this is what you really have to work on all of your staff with, because you can't possibly do it all yourself. And it's easier when it's youth. But I had a coach tell me this one time, and it just woke me up. I was a young coach. I was a freshman coach. And I said, well, what is this kid doing? And can he help us and whatever? And he's like, hey, I'm the whatever position coach, and my job isn't to evaluate talent. And it was like one of those moments, like, what did he just say? Like, this was a coach at a high school level. And I'm thinking, that's your only job, is to constantly evaluate talent.
Right.
These kids are working individual, group, team every single day, and they're pouring for you, and they're doing it. The least you could do is evaluate if they're getting better, worse, or not.
Right.
And so, that one of my biggest things there is do them a favor for their work and evaluate them constantly. Like, oh, you're getting faster. Hey, you're really learning how to, get you both hands behind the ball when you catch. And, and kids need to hear progress because they don't see it. They got a helmet on. Everything's uncomfortable. Things are going faster than they are. And so you have to provide evaluations to kids, and you got to get it to them. Mm-hmm. And so, the last thing that I think out of the top 3 things in being a good youth coach is to finally teach football, teach a brand. And you're right. Well, hey, we're going to have 27 run plays. No, we're going to learn how to do 2 or 3, 2 this way and 2 that way, and right and left. And then we're going to hope we can put a pass play in, maybe on a play action, and then we'll go from there. So be good at something. And the worst thing you can do is have kids guessing and not knowing where to go. So the kids that are totally dialed in, and we know who these kids are, they're just above and ahead, and they just have the passion and they really care. Those kids are going to excel at a youth age so much faster. So then you think you can put in a bunch more stuff for them. And then everybody else follows behind. And you're like, well, we'll go back to Johnny. Well, Johnny's got it. And you should too. Well, not everybody learns the same way. And so if you keep up with Johnny and you keep doing that, then you can't put anybody else in. And what if Johnny can't make it there? They got a family trip.
Right.
Oh, well, you didn't develop anybody else too, so that's on you. So I think teaching football at the level that you're at, and high school is different and college is much different. And so, but that's not what we're talking about. The book literally stops. I mean, it's amazing to me that we overthink this.
Keep it simple, right?
Yeah. But we so overthink it, like, we're gonna fool the other team. You don't have to.
Yeah.
You don't have to fool the other team. Put a fun play in. I put that in there. Just put a fun play in to practice before and after practice kind of thing. Whatever, it's a flea flicker or a whatever, halfback pass, something fun. Because the kids think about it, whatever. And if it should come to a game, and I've used them. I've probably used some kind of gimmicky play every season that I've ever coached.
Yeah. Keep them engaged. Make the game fun for sure. You can find every episode on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or YouTube, or any podcast app. Follow our social accounts for show updates, local events, inspirational content, or simply for fun. Follow us on Facebook, X, TikTok, Blue Sky, or Instagram. Please contact the Newsa-Cast to share your story, offer a suggestion of a particular athlete or sport, or even an idea, or just simply say hello. Newsa-Cast@gmail.com. We might have talked about this when we've had you on a couple of different times. So I encourage anybody to go back and listen to it. We break down, the AYFA story, which is incredible. And we had you on one other time too, just to talk football. But I'm curious about the development of the youth. You're right, because in Pop Warner, even middle school kids develop so different. I mean, the kid that's sitting on the bench might be the star in high school. So that is. I guess coaches and parents always need to keep that in mind, that the kids develop so differently from 1 to their 20s, right? From birth to the 20s.
Yeah. So my take on that is what's enough and what's not enough. And when you do, because I do a lot of outside of football training with youth kids, and it's a movement base, it's activation base. It has nothing to do with football at all. We never talk about football. We talk about nutrition and a good balanced life and being good in school and that kind of thing, and making sure that you're hugging your mom. But what's enough? What's a season, right? And we've gone so back and forth on this. If you go to the Oklahomas, Texases in the world, the honestly, I promise you, they're playing like 40 games of youth football. Yeah. And they just play. And so obviously we can establish that's too much. We do run into other sports, and other sports want, to keep their schedules, and they want tryouts for basketball. So you don't put kids and families in the middle of those things. So then what do they give us? They give us an August start, and they really give us to about middle to end of October, right? So in that time frame, safely, you're going to play about 10, 11, 12 games. And so for these kids that need to develop, we call them reserve games. And we try to do them earlier. We've coached a bunch of them. My number one advice to all coaches that get into them is don't win them. Don't try to win. I mean, you're going to win. I mean, I've never actually won a reserve game as a coach.
Yeah.
True story. I've tried. I mean, I try to put the kids in the position all the time, but I won't sacrifice a kid's opportunity to try to win. I won't say, well, let's get Johnny back in there. No. Johnny sits on the sidelines and watches and learns what it's like to be a good teammate from the sidelines. When we do those reserve games, we warm up as a team, and then I have the guys that start normally. They take their helmets off, put it on the sidelines, and they be the best possible teammate they possibly can. And they help coach, and they help. And, maybe I've played one or coached one where I think we had 12 active kids.
Nice.
It worked out. Yeah, it worked out that way. Every kid played both ways. Every kid played a ton, and we did not win. But those kids. So what happens, Joe, is that cornerback, and I'm thinking about a specific kid. He's playing his butt off, and he's playing constantly, and they go at him, and he turns the wrong way, and guy ends up wide open, and it's a great coaching moment. Okay, you did this, but here's what I liked. Get back out there, let's get it. And they go at him again, and this time he opens the right way, like he makes a correction, right? And then he stays on top of it. And then by 4 or 5 plays where they target him, the kid ends up making a play. Well, if that kid's not playing and doesn't get that opportunity, it might take him 2 or 3 years to go through that development where you just tackled it in one game. So then the next game, we sprinkle him in. And it's one of my philosophies that I put in the book. I love it the most because I don't like the A's or the B's and stuff. And if you're going to rank the kids first team, second team, and you're going to platoon them in and out as a whole unit, it just does nothing good for a kid's ego. Whereas we had this, and he was doing everything right, and he played a reserve game. He's a small, short, middle linebacker. And we had these stud linebackers. And I walked over to our linebacker coach and I said, hey, sprinkle in, little Johnny, sprinkle him in, like pull out our starter, put him in there and see how he plays alongside those other starters and whatever. And no kidding, the kid sticks his nose in there, makes a nice little tackle. He slides well. And okay, he can play. Well, now we have film that says, Mom, Dad, look, he can play. Like he's developing, he's doing great, hoping he stays with it because he's a half pint. He's little. Mm-hmm. And, but then think of what you just did to the kid's ego. He played alongside starters and he did great. Okay. So now he earns some more snaps, maybe not in crucial situations, or maybe, who cares? It's youth. But I just think that if you have this mentality that it's not about winning and losing and it's about development, those kids are going to make mistakes. And we took a team over to East and we were the better team that season. And we went up 3 touchdowns within the blink of an eye. I think special teams caused one of them. And the first thing I did is walk down the sidelines with the coaches and said, sprinkle like crazy. I don't care about that score. Make it closer than it is right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And take chances on everything and coach like crazy. This is the fun part, guys. Let's do it. And we did. And, I think East ended up scoring 21 points or whatever it was. And, it was still lopsided. We had a better day. And that was a great team. That was 2019. But I saw these kids in this game, and that's important. They got to be playing. You just got to keep them along. And then, we got story after story, and I'm serious. Every single season, we got a kid who stayed with it. They worked. They've hardly said a boo. They finally grew into their bodies. They caught up to their minds, and they were able to be great contributors on varsity their senior year. And they created all these great memories just because they stuck with it. If you get rid of those kids in 8th grade, they never have that experience, and then you lost a starter by the time that varsity class is there.
And you got lost in your fundamentals as a coach, right? Building character, instilling discipline, and creating lifelong memories. If the kid leaves in 8th grade, 100%. One of the coolest things you said to me one time, and I never thought about it, but by kids, being coached by you, being coached by this type of philosophy, you make them lifelong football fans. I mean, their viewing experiences on Saturday and Sundays, when they're our age, will be because they know the fundamentals. They know what they know what a dive play is. They know what a jet sweep, any of the lingo, the terminology in football, that plays well, right? That just makes that experience more enjoyable for you.
Yeah. Teaching the game and teaching, just what's happening. Like, oh, did you see the audible? Oh, see, let's run it back, guys. Let's see. This is what happened. The quarterback made an audible, but so did the safety. Look, who's going to catch who now? They're audibling. It's way beyond us, but I got some kids I coached back in the day. They're going through that right now because they're in college football. Yeah. And it's really cool to give them confidence. The neatest things you hear from these kids when they play their last senior game, and I had so many in my son's class, we had so many come up to me and are like, you taught me my love for football. You taught me all this football is and how important it is. And, I can't thank you enough. And it gives me tears. Now, unfortunately, we got to do that every year. They don't play their last game, and only one team in state finishes with a win. And just hasn't been us, but
well, it leads me to a question that we ask almost every Newsa-Cast guest. And all sports, really life is all about overcoming defeat and failure. And I guess one person, and you cover it in the book, kind of throughout, but for you personally, I mean, how do you overcome defeat? Because coaching is every day you're overcoming defeat.
Well, you're going to love this one, Joe. You really are. It's a constant development, and you're always looking for the latest or most current version. But overcoming is my favorite thing to talk about, and overcome. It's mental and it's personal with failure, and coaches can really ruin things very fast. But also it's a culture thing, right? So. And I touch a lot on culture on and off, and I probably could write a whole book on culture, but that's not new. A lot of people do. But if you create a culture in which failure is acceptable, and what we don't want is for you thinking about failure. We don't want you dwelling on failure, or when you're trying to be successful, failure gets in the way. We want you to go 100%. And if you drop the ball or something goes wrong or you miss a tackle or whatever, it's acceptable because I love your effort and I know where your head's at. And I know that you didn't want to drop the ball or miss the tackle or whatever it was, or make a bad throw or what. We know that. And all I can do is pile on to somebody who's already struggling with the failure on their own. What I can do is do the opposite and pick them up and say, I loved your effort there. I wanted you to catch it just as much as you, but I want you to catch the next one too. So let's move on. Two things, and I'll bring up the latest, but I used to use the story of Jeff Hahnemann, a good friend of mine, and he played shortstop, and he was a 4-year all-conference shortstop in college.
Nice.
You can only be 4 years.
Yeah.
All conference. So it's pretty impressive. But I was sitting in Jeff's dorm room one time. We were just hanging out, listening to music, whatever it was. And it was his junior year. I think he's a year behind me. And he took his hat off and he had it laying there. And I saw it had a bunch of little check marks on the brim inside. And I looked and I said, what the heck is that? And he said, oh, that's every error.
Oh, wow.
And I said, what do you mean? I said, you put a check mark in your hat for every error? And he said, yep. I get to the dugout, I put a check mark, and that's the last time I think about it.
Interesting.
And I thought, wow, what a great story. So I've been using that forever. And just today, I brought up your Matt Young interview. And awesome interview. Everybody go watch that interview, because here's a guy who, Jeff Leopold is in our on our coaching staff, and so is Nathan Otto, and those guys coached Matt when he was younger.
Right.
And Matt was an overachiever. He was way behind physically. He was slowed to, and I shouldn't say it, but, between the ears, the kid was always solid.
Yeah.
But what he said in that interview, again, is dealing with failure. That was that didn't he say that was his number one biggest thing, was learning how to move on quickly from failure and overcoming, so the next play you were right in the head. And so you could probably elaborate better on what that was, but I watched that. It's a great interview, great kid. How do you not root for that?
Right.
That kid. And we are, but he just went from D3 to D1.
Right.
And he might start at nickel.
He's got a legit chance. I haven't seen the current depth chart, but he's right there.
Yeah, he's right out there making plays at Madison, right? I mean, dream come true. So failure is just a huge part of it, right? But you can't let it get in the way of these kids, and failure affects performance. So you have to have help them overcome it. And I will say, it is harder at the youth level because there's a lot more failure.
Right.
And so it's okay, and humiliate. I think part of failure and instruction and dealing with it sometimes too is that these kids are trying to get socially acceptable. And if you got a coach that's yelling at a kid, that's hurtful.
Yeah.
So yell at the team or yell to the team. I had an interesting comment made to me one of the years that I was coaching, and they said, until I went to practice, I never really realized how much you yell. And I said, I didn't think I was much of a yeller. And she said, I didn't either. I didn't think, and then there are a couple other moms there, and they said, yeah, you yell a lot, but you're encouraging when you're yelling, and you're yelling to the team and not at anybody. And I thought, oh yeah, I guess so. And I had this player who was very emotional, great player. And I thought, my goodness, if somebody yells at this kid, they're going to ruin him. And so every time you had to correct or do anything, you pulled him aside. And it ended up, he's not alone. He wasn't the only one that you should do that to. But what I found out is you started getting a heck of a lot more out of the kid when you just pulled him aside and said, hey, I know, but here, I need more out of you. I need you, I don't want to yell at you in front of everybody, but I need a little more out of you. And here's what I'm seeing, and this is what I'd like to see more. And, so you just talk to him. And it's about trust and respect. And I talk a lot about that in there, that trust is a two-way street. Respect is a necessary element between a coach and a kid. I touched on a lot of those things, and a lot of it has to do with your question. Failure is how are you dealing with failure? Well, it's an all the time thing.
Yeah, it really is. And it's, the older I get, obviously you start reflecting on life. I mean, it's just, and it's outside of sports. It's literally life, just so many failures, but you need the failure to move forward and to learn from. But gosh darn it, that's really hard to do. And it's really hard to take that failure and actually learn from it.
Yeah, it is.
Northeast Wisconsin Sports Advancement, or Noosa, is a nonprofit org where our mission is to raise money, provide support, and bring greater awareness to youth sports organizations in Northeast Wisconsin. We do this primarily through the Red Smith Sports Award Banquet and the Newsa-Cast. Each year, we give back to the community through the Every Kid Plays grant. If you are considering donating or providing support through Noosa, please visit redsmith.org for details. Getting back to just actually, how do you write a book? So you have that idea. How do you actually go about then publishing it? How do you get? Do you hire an editor right away? I mean, how do you put it into book form and present it in a way that can sell books?
Yeah, so a lot of things go through your head when you're doing it. So you're writing it down. You're thinking, well, I only have, out of your scratched notes, I only have a couple of areas to go yet, and then I probably have it just about done. For example, my big one, my huge miss was practice. I said, oh gosh, I just got to talk about practice a little bit and kind of advise on how to do a plan. And when you start writing about practice, you just realize that it's your biggest topic. It's your most important topic. So I started doing the math as I'm going through it. I'm like, okay, so during a season, a game is approximately this many hours. During a season, this is approximately the number of hours that are practice. So your contact with a player is like 88% practice.
Yeah.
And
makes
when
sense.
you start realizing that, you're like, maybe part of any of the successes where our kids grew and we grew the programs and everything might have to do with we were really good structured practices. We were organized in a way where we could progress. We had installs. We had individuals where we had worked on fundies constantly. And then you have group where you're working with others on those fundies. And then you have team trying to put it together in scheme and philosophy. And, and then special teams. How do you teach kids how to kick? It takes forever. Well, it doesn't. You just got to be repetitive. You got to always build it in, and it'll get better and better. And so, you find that you're shifting the book around. And so you got all these topics, and then you at one point you just stop. Like, do I have enough? And you got to read your own book, right? So you read it and you go through and you're like, well, I think this should be over here and this should be over there. And that's just, organizing. And then you add a chapter here or there. But I had this thing, and I had it where I thought it was pretty buttoned up. And then I got to tip my cap. One of my best friends from college, still one of my best friends, Billy Schultz. He's a computer guy. He has written 2 books of his own. And I just called him. I said, Billy, I need your help, man. And I said, I don't know what I'm doing. So there are resources out there, but Billy had learned by doing his own, and he guided me through the whole KDP thing and said, you can self-publish, and, with AI, you can help them reorganize your table of contents. And so you have to put your copyright and your disclaimers in, because if my book does cause injury to anybody, I'm not held liable. So, but all those little things you don't think about. And so he got me kind of in the mindset of understanding all of that. We met and worked on it. I'm going to guess between 5 and 7 times, just for a few hours here or there. And then my cover, he actually built that. He built that on a separate publishing tool that he had, but it's not all simple, and that's why most people hire somebody to do all of this. But since the book, you actually have a program that you can put into a KDP format. You just have to figure out how big you want the book, and then it formats the entire book to be uploaded to KDP, which is Kindle. It's Amazon Kindle. So that is my publisher right now. And so anytime somebody buys the book, I get a notification, and they give me a kind of a royalty to it, but they do all the work. They do the publishing, and I think they've done a wonderful job. But that's kind of how it came to. It's who you know.
Right.
We've all come to each other, you and a lot of my friends through the years. We come together for what others do well and you don't, and it's a great learning process. But I gotta thank all the kids that helped me learn and be my guinea pigs, and the coaches that I coached with, and all the mentors I had, all the way up to Paul Engen, who was one of my first real coaches in high school back in the day, and Demereth, and you remember those guys over at Einstein.
Oh yeah.
All those guys over at West. And then at Ripon, I had really great coaching again with Ernst and that whole staff. And it was a great experience. And, I kept my love for football just by the choices and the people I was around. My family's been, that was like our, you can't play basketball, you can't do this, but you can play football. So my dad and mom love football. My mom loves all sports pretty much, but my dad is a huge football guy. And so he's, he allowed us to run with that passion for sure.
Yeah, no, definitely. Who does get called to coach? I mean, especially at the youth level, I think a lot of parents maybe do it to maybe try to connect with their kids, but I feel like the really good coaches, and I mean, your staff that you initially built with the Chargers, the Hulkies, the Hansons, those guys, that was an incredible staff. And those guys stuck around for a long time, and they were clearly called to coach. But I guess if you're somebody just listening to this podcast, I mean, how do you know if you're called to coach? I mean, it's got to be more than just wanting to hang out with your kids. I think you're kind of wired that way, aren't you?
Yeah, I do. I think a little bit. And it's interesting you bring that up, because I think that everybody's is a little bit different because it's personal to make that decision, but yet a lot of them are very similar. And I think the book is very intended for those that are wondering. And I think it tells you how to build a staff. Like the book literally will go through how I built my staff year in and year out. And it is very important. And you do not ask coaches back sometimes because they are there only to help their kid, which hurts their kid. Right. And I go through that. If you sit and put your kid on a pedestal and you're giving your son all the opportunities and not others, it hurts him, not you, because the kids see that and they resent it because they're just sixth graders or whatever, and that's what you do when you're a sixth grader. You get animosity. And you caused it. So to define who they are, you're right. I think it is a certain person. And it's somebody who says, I'm not afraid. I just don't know what I'm doing. And so I would like to get involved. And normally and this is what our programs are built to be, is attractive. Pop Warner does a great job. It's attractive. So you want to be, you don't mind being a part of the program. And that's what the Chargers and the AYFA itself, that was what it was all supposed to be about. Play music, play in these stadiums. They all have turf, make it an event. So you're part of it, and you get to wear Eric Hansen told me this story. He went to Shields, and he said he talked to somebody because he was asking for Chargers gear. It was the LA Chargers.
Yeah.
And he said the floor manager was like, yeah, what is going on? We're totally sold out of Chargers gear in Wisconsin. What is going on? And he told him about it. He goes, oh, that's awesome. Right. So, and then that led to Shields calling us and, having some conversations about, getting some things. So, but yeah, I think that the parents who are very involved, they'll go the extra mile. It's not, not everybody can. I think some should and can't. But yeah, I think it's innate in them that they want to help and they want to be a part of their kid's life. But I think there's a lack of fear to do it. They just don't know how, and they're not as organized. And then when you start working with them, they just, oh, wow. And you see them blossom. And I touch on this in the book to the point you're making, is that by the time you go through a program normally, say you coach 3 years at Pop Warner and 3 years in the AYFA in Appleton, and by the time you've coached 6 years, you're actually a pretty good coach. You've made the mistakes, you've learned, you've figured it out, because people are they're pretty smart. I mean, they're going to get better. And what I try to do in the book is say, hey, how good could the experience be for the kids and the coaches if we got all of those mistakes out of the way? Read the book. Let me help you walk through the best way to go into this. You don't have to figure it out over 3 or 4 seasons and maybe ruin it for a couple people, including yourself. Read the book and be that far ahead, and perhaps the opportunities are much better. The experience is much better, because I think it's very important for coaches to enjoy the experience too.
Right.
And I loved coaching. I loved being part of all of that. I ate that up, and we would have barbecues after the games in the backyard and all those things. And I'm thinking of my experience. And then I talked to some of these other youth coaches, and they're miserable. They're mad at everybody. They had friendships that were lost because of it. And it's like, well, gosh, we got to, we can be a bit better. And right. So, that's kind of what some of the focus is all about, is just, if the experience for the coaches is better, it's certainly going to be better for the kids too.
Absolutely. I don't think it can be stressed enough. I mean, you can literally, you cover absolutely every aspect of coaching, from just step 1 to, step 100. It's the detail. I mean, there's practice plans there. Your calendar is set. Literally everything, philosophy, how to run drills, what drills should be run, practice, everything we talked about is laid out in an easy to read, manner. I particularly like chapter 22. It's the communication. And I'm sure it's probably one of the biggest headaches maybe as a coach is it's dealing with parents, but communication is, again, it's a life lesson. If the better communicator you are, just the easier life is going to be. And certainly as a parent, and it's, this probably could have been chapter 1, communication.
Yeah. Communication, there's so many levels of it, right? I mean, there's the communication with the parents so they don't get upset or they know what's going on. The last thing you want is the experience to be, well, I never know what's going on, and the practice changes and this happens, and what do we do? And I don't know if Johnny likes it anymore, or whatever. And so if you just kind of give speed bump updates, hey, this is really great. Love this team. Really proud of all you parents just letting us coach, say some things that you kind of want to happen even more. But yeah, there are platforms out there. And I just saw another one. I get, doing it as long as I have, and then being a president of an org and whatnot, I get ads for everything. So now there's a brand new app that just came out that, hey, this is perfect for youth football and baseball and whatever, because the practice planner's right on there. You get to see what's going on. You build it right on there, and then it just push a button and it goes out to all this stuff. So it's constantly going to evolve and get better. Sure. than what I even did. But there's still the old adage of just sending an email out to everybody. My brother does it at North. He's the head football coach at North. He still sends an email out once a week and gives you the updates. And
and parents need that. I mean, as a parent that went through both the AYFA and a varsity player at North, a parent just wants to know what's going. 99.9% of the parents are great. It's that 1% that you seem to have trouble with. But if you communicate with, you just understand what's happening. That to me, I think that puts out most of the fires.
Right. In adversity is the toughest thing on every coach, right? Is dealing with something that's outside of, what you're planning. And it typically can be parents. And a lot of times parents, boy, I could go on for hours on my experiences with parents. I've had some real doozies over the years.
You have.
Yeah. And you know what? It's not even 80-20. I agree with you. It's not even every year that you deal with a really tough parent. But you do. And some of them you just can't do anything about. And you just, I have a bunch of comebacks that are legit and they work, and I've had to develop them over the years, sadly, but so many are so great. Focus on them, and make sure your assistant coaches don't deal with the problematic ones. Invite them to practice to watch. It's my first thing for criticism. You want to criticize? I'm here every day. I'm working. I'm not seeing what you're saying. Maybe you can help me. Why don't you come to practice and watch? And if you think that, your son should be playing over this kid or that or whatever, they all get equal opportunities, especially on Mondays and Tuesdays. That's where you structure practice. So they have equal amounts of reps. And so if they stand out and they're better than, the kid that plays maybe a little bit more, then they'll play more. And, this just hasn't happened for your son to now, but you're welcome to any practice. Very rarely do they come.
Yeah. How many have taken you up on that?
A few, usually youth. In high school, I offer it. I always throw out there that our stadium holds, 3,600 people. And I've never seen anybody, I've never seen you up there helping me. So I guess we have to go with my evaluation because you don't have one. And you don't want to be rude, but they're already rude. So you kind of got to call them out on it and then say, I'm doing my best. And, and usually you're not going to win anyway. And so you gotta agree to disagree at some point, and they're going to be disgruntled and mad, and they're probably talking to their kid in a manner in which, you're the worst coach in history, and you're never going to win everyone over. The Sabans and all of them, they're hated by some, right? Yeah. And they still, Belichick has the number one book out there for coaching, and I'm sure there are quite a few in New York that don't like him and other places, but you don't coach for the one kid anyway. You coach for the whole. I tend to root for the kid whose parent is doing those things. I root for them a bit more. Like, gosh, you're climbing a mountain higher than most of these kids just because of what you go home to. So there is the sadness to that part. But and there's I put a bonus chapter in because I was ready to be done. And I just put a bonus chapter after, and it actually deals with parents and just trying to help out, because I think I'd make a mistake to put this out there and not try to help provide a little bit of guidance to dealing with parents. None of us are great at it. None of us want to do it when it's negative. But there's so many that are so positive. I get the texts like you wouldn't believe. Since writing this, there's a coach over at West, and he said, I wish I would have had this book. It's changed how I look at things. It's changed how I approach things. It's changed. And he coaches at the high school level. Mm-hmm. And he said, your advice on your mentality with your coaches around you to say, just try and outcoach me. You try and outwork me, and you'll be because you're there for how long? An hour and a half practice, 2 hours, and you can't work that, all in. Kids see that you're not all in too. So the mentality, I've always had this, like when you'll see me at a varsity practice, I'm never on the sidelines ever. I'm out coaching a punt returner. I'm out coaching, scout this or scout. I don't care. I'm there to coach. I'm there to work. I'm not going to stand on the sidelines and try to make friends.
Right.
I don't think 16-year-olds want me to be their friend, just to coach. But it's true. And she said, thank you so much for that advice alone, because I've become such a better coach, because now I try to go with the philosophy, I won't be outworked. I will outwork everybody when I coach. And he said, I've gotten so much better as a coach. So that was great feedback. I've gotten the Saints program. They bought a book for every one of their coaches.
Nice.
Pop Warner just bought 50, and they gave them to all their coaches. Appleton North Chargers, obviously, they bought them, and all the coaches have that. We're starting to see it more and more. I've sold 350, just short of 350 copies, and I really haven't marketed it. So
yeah, what is the best way to get your book? I mean, I got it out of the back of your trunk. So how do
That's true. That's true.
Yes.
No, I appreciate you asking. So you type my name in Amazon and my book pops up. It's that simple. And then you order it, and I think you get it in like 2 or 3 days. It's pretty quick. It's really awesome. But I would welcome everybody to see if their feeder systems, their feeder programs have it. And then, if $15 is too much, I get it. But buy one and pass it around. It's a simple read. I mean, I don't know how long they take you, Joe. A day or two? I mean, just picking it up and putting it down.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's the kind of book that it would be ragged by the end of the year, because I would literally have it in. I mean, it's not to compare it to religion, but it's a lot like a Bible, where you're just, you want to know something about a Wednesday practice. How should I be gauging a Wednesday practice? You can pick up the book and find information on that, or, how to deal with parents. You can flip to the back of the book. I mean, there's so many different things. The read is really easy, but the information in it is life-changing.
Yeah, thank you. And Paul Engen told me this, Coach Engen. He loved it. And he said, what I really love, and I think this is kind of where you're going with this, Joe, is the takeaways. Yeah. Where you wrap up the chapter and you can literally put a tab in your favorite chapters and just go through the takeaways and refresh you for what, maybe happened the day before, or what you want to focus on that day, or whatever it is. It's kind of like the Cliff's Notes in the book.
Absolutely. I think it keeps your mind sharp. When I officiated, I always wrote part of my just preparing to officiate a game, and write just some quick notes or just things I wanted to be conscious of, or maybe work my game. I would use this book as a coach, very similar, where I maybe would just look at the keys in the end. Okay, my head's right. I want to cover these areas and just go do that. But it's very, you need to have this book in your back pocket. I mean, it's a multi-tool use, it's the information, but it's just the reaffirming of information that you have in your head, make the confidence. It's just, yes, I am on the right track. We are doing whatever, this proven fact, I'm on the right track. I think I would use this book for that as well as a coach. But would parents, I almost feel like parents maybe would enjoy it as well. At least it's very technical. I mean, it's certainly geared for the coach, but I think a parent maybe would find some interest in it as well.
Is that a premonition?
Or you should write another book. I don't know.
Well, yeah. That's actually the exact topic.
Oh, gotcha. All right.
It really is going to be, and I haven't started it, but it's in the works on thought, and just kind of trying to figure it out. But that is the next one, is to try to help be a parent. And I know there's some stuff out there, and the problem with it is it gets too philosophical. Most of them that are out there. I'm not trying to reinvent, how to educate children. And so I think as part of the developmental process as being a parent is learning how to be a parent with activities and sports. And you don't want your kid standing out in ways that a lot of the parents want this pedestal, like, oh, they should be a quarterback. They got a dynamite arm. Have you asked your son if they want to play quarterback? Because I have, and he doesn't.
Yeah.
And no, he wouldn't say that. Well, no, he did. He told me that. I've asked him several times because he's a great athlete and he has a nice arm. And I'd love to see if he could do it. He has no interest. Nope, that's not true. He needs to try a quarterback. I won't put a kid in a position that he asked me he doesn't want to be in.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. And the problem there then, Joe, is that ends up being more about the parent mad at the kid. And it's like, okay, so maybe I got to handle that a little differently. And so you got to think of these situations like you're the kid and what's going to happen now that your coach had the conversation, let the cat out of the bag that I don't want to play quarterback and dad really wants me to play quarterback. I mean, there's some really crappy stories out there regarding that kind of stuff.
Oh, absolutely.
And it's very, very real. And it's happening, I think, all the time. It's almost, we've heard of these stories, right? There's a rule in our house or in our family that after a game, absolutely 100% in the car ride home, you cannot talk about the game.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a great rule.
How was Tommy today? Was he his normal funny self and, whatever? I mean, you can talk about what happened at the game as far as, but you can't talk about their performance or anything else. And that whatever tradition you want to create, it's ice cream or, whatever, Tom's Drive-In in Appleton. But, whatever that needs to be, have it be about that and the fact that you're proud. Yeah. That they just played a sport and they just played a game. And this is baseball. This is basketball. This is football. It's all of them. It's lacrosse. This is how a parent should be, is be a parent, because you just got done with a coach. Be a parent now.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. If you want a coach, then you should step up.
Right.
Otherwise, don't coach because somebody else is already doing that. And, and maybe that's a new chapter or a new part of the book or another edition that we put in there is maybe that is an educational tool, is how to prep your parents to let you coach. And I think I touch on some of it in there communication wise back to chapter 22, but maybe I need to go further with it and try to protect some more kids. If my number one mission in the book is protect children, maybe I got to do more. I don't know.
Yeah, it's tough. I look forward to that book though. That's book is almost as needed as a call to coaching.
Yeah. Agreed.
Well, Nick, this is obviously we could talk for hours. I think this will be the third podcast, so you can listen to a lot more of our conversations. Yeah. But right. No, congratulations, and I'm super proud of you. I mean, we've been friends for a long time now, and I've seen you do amazing things. And this is just another one of those, is actually writing a book and a useful book at that on a sport and a subject that we both find near and dear to our heart.
Right. No, thank you, Joe. I really appreciate this, and you being so supportive over the years in so many different ways, and these podcasts and helping get my story out is awesome. And I really hope people like the book. I hope it does what it was intended to do. It wasn't for profit. It was for getting it out there. There's a cost to doing that. But it really is to try to help the masses and to make great experiences for, number one, kids, but also coaches out there. Coaches, it's asking a lot. It really is. And it asks more and more and more. As I'm a varsity football coach, it asks more and more and more as you go. So taking it, please keep stepping up. Please keep being called, and please take it and take any advice you can, not just mine. My advice all comes through built experience from hundreds of coaches and reading books about coaches and learning lessons and doing it right and doing it wrong. Yeah. So,
and if for some reason you don't want to coach, you can always officiate.
Yeah. Well, I got bad hips. Maybe I should.
Well, Nick, I certainly appreciate this, and people go out and buy the book. It's incredible.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it, and thank you.
All right, Newsa-Cast listeners, it is time to get to our throwback. And we're going to head all the way back to 1990. And in 1990, at the Paper Valley Hotel, we were lucky enough to have Willie Davis.
Yeah, one of the greatest Packers of all time, Tosh. Man, that guy was incredible. And what a year 1990 was at the Red Smith Banquet, because we had Larry Zonka as well. I mean, talk about two Hall of Fame NFLers in Appleton, Wisconsin.
Yeah, and if you want to see, I know Larry Zonka we've done him. He's been
So
a throwback.
Funny.
He's super funny. You can check out the full interviews on our YouTube channel. Go to the Newsa-Cast YouTube channel, check out all of the throwbacks. You get the full speech or interview or whatever it was at the time. And Willie Davis is a good one. Check out Zonka. Check out anybody. There's so many of them on there. You're bound to sit and go down the rabbit hole of speakers at Red Smith.
Yeah, absolutely. I think about Willie too. That's we've said this before, and it's one of the cool things. You don't always go back and listen to them, and they come to the banquet, you forget about it. But so many of these were great. Willie talks about Lombardi. I mean, we're so far removed from the glory days of the '60s from the Packers, but those guys are all passed on. A lot of the fans are passing on now, and you lose touch. But to hear those stories, I mean, what an era of football, and so thankful that happened in Green Bay. It put Green Bay on the map, and to be, Willie Davis, integral part of it. And he's got great stories of Max McGee and Horning. I mean, it's just legendary stuff.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. You can't forget the history. I mean, without that history, we don't have what we have today. We're not called Titletown. So you got to check these guys out. You can't forget that because it is a huge part of what the Packers are today.
Yeah, no doubt. Incredible stuff. Well, folks, enjoy Willie Davis, and don't forget to hit like and subscribe at Newsa-Cast YouTube page. We really need the subscriptions, so please, please, please bang that bell.
The Red Smith Sports Award Banquet.
The main reason that this banquet was established was to honor at least 10 local area people who might not have been honored for the job they do to help in sports.
The Red Smith Award, of course, goes to someone who has made some unique contributions to sport.
Who has made a significant contribution to sports in the state of Wisconsin.
And also epitomizes the great values that Red Smith exhibited.
Let's give a Red Smith welcome.
On behalf of the people here tonight and the committee who chose you as a recipient of the Red Smith Award, we want to thank you for being here and honoring us with your presence. Thank you, Judge Cannon, to the dais, successful coaches, audience, and everyone. I could start out by indeed saying it's a real pleasure to be here tonight, but if you live in Los Angeles, people realize it's a pleasure to be awake, so I won't even take your time for that. But I think a night like tonight, it really touches you in many ways, because I can tell you that some of the greatest moments of my life were spent in this state, and I still cherish those years, and I guess it's one of the reasons I've held on to some attachments to the state. And as I was even coming up here today, I thought about when I was first traded to Green Bay, and Paul Brown had said all the times before that if you don't want to play here, we can always arrange for you to go to Green Bay. And little did I know. But you know what, Coach, you'll appreciate this. I understand Lou Holtz the other day went into the O'Hare Airport. You probably heard this. And he walked up to the counter and he said, look, I want to check a bag to Denver. I want to check a bag to Los Angeles. And I want to leave one bag here in Chicago. And the attendant looked at him and said, wait a minute, you can't do that. He said, why not? You guys did it last week. I surely want to say to Ms. Smith and in particular the committee involved with the Red Smith Award, I truly just looked at the list of recipients and I can say that just being a part of this kind of group is very heartwarming. And I tell you, a night like tonight make you think about all of those things. You know, I thought about my high school coach who got me started in football. I thought about Eddie Robinson at Grambling who kind of said, boy, get your life together. And I thought about Paul Brown who drafted me and said, we think you can play in this league. And I thought about Lombardi when I first walked in his office and said to me, you're going to be our defensive left end. And, you know, and I said, a person's life is not all his doing. And the night you truly feel touched by the people who over a period of time impacted your life. You know, Joan Douglas MacArthur said, when a young man tastes of academic excellence and athletic success, he has tasted of life's finest fruit. I can say to you tonight, I experienced all of those things, but I also had the pleasure of seeing young people come up here tonight that are very much in that process. So I especially want to say to you tonight, I appreciate this moment for all the right reasons. The Green Bay Packers are clearly still dear to my heart, and I was not kidding when I said my satellite had the fun of watching the Packers this year. And you restored my Monday bragging rights. So I just really want to say just thank you. I will take this back to California and I will display it very well. Thank you very much.
All right, Tosh, another great YouTube throwback, Red Smith throwback, I should say, which is out on YouTube, Newsa-Cast YouTube page. Please, we beg you to watch it, subscribe to it, share it, do whatever you have to do. But that subscription, that's the one that helps us, and that's the toughest number it seems to get in our quest to get to certain levels in social media. So whatever platform you watch the throwback on, if you could hit subscribe, that would be huge. Well, Tosh, we another great episode. I love doing these, and we always like to end with a little It's Forgotten, kind of a little good, bad, what's happened to us over the last couple of weeks or whatever. So, Tosh, what's forgotten in your world?
Well, this is going to be an easy one for people who have been around here for the last few months, and it's the wildfire smoke. Yeah. It's been pretty bad. I mean, even my voice has been gone and itchy eyes and everything else. It's, it's like almost like allergies, but it's been kind of crazy. Some scientists say we have a new season that is man-made called the haze season, coming from all the wildfires and the smoke and stuff. So yeah, I'll take beautiful skies, but I'd rather be able to breathe.
Yeah, you can smell it. I mean, this is one of those where it's a distinct smell. I mean, I'm out in it all day, and I guess I've kind of become accustomed to it. But in the morning, you can certainly smell it. And you're right, that haze is everywhere. The satellites, when you're used to the rain and snow clouds and that type of satellite. Now you've got just billows of smoke over all of northeastern Wisconsin. We were in the target zone. I think we were the worst in the nation a couple of days in a row, right around Mile of Music, actually.
Yeah.
Those days we had the worst air quality.
That's crazy. Yeah, and now some big wildfires kicking up in California again as well. So we don't want to see wildfires anywhere. So let's forget about that.
Yeah, let's forget about those. That's good advice, Tosh.
All right, Joe. How about yourself? What do you want to forget?
Well, Tosh, it's been forgotten for a long time, and that's my golf game. But it came back. I brought it back, Tosh. It's forgotten no more. Well, now it's forgotten again. It was 2 days I played. The good, the bad, the ugly, the brutal, the inconsistency, the inability to keep my freaking head still and looking down at the ball. Just couldn't do it consistently. But we played 2 days. I had a buddy's trip down to the Dells and played a couple of courses down there. Had to borrow shout out Raleigh Winter, Dub. His set of clubs I had to use. So yeah, but it was fun. It was good to get back out. I mean, I grew up playing golf, played through my 20s, and then just kind of had kids and haven't played a whole lot since. But it was still there. I hit a couple of good shots, but it was fun to get out there. And
that's good.
Now it's forgotten again, Tosh. Not sure when the next time I'll play, but
where did you play?
Oh, it was 2 courses in the Dells, and I can't remember. One was the replica course, kind of. It was, I mean, it's a nice course. It's okay. Yeah, I kind of get the idea, but it's, you weren't really playing Augusta number 11 or whatever the holes were. And then I forgot the name of the other one, Tosh. I'm no good at that. I was along for the ride literally that whole weekend. So they put me in a cart and we just, pointed me in the right direction. I took a swing. So
there you go. Yeah. Nothing wrong with that.
No, exactly. But yeah, good to see the boys, and it was good to play. My hands were sore that Sunday night after that. Almost started to get, if I would have played a third day, I'm pretty sure I would have had a pretty good blister.
Nice.
Well, that's forgotten. Tosh, we would like to end on a good night or a good note with something that you're never forgetting. So how about you? What are you never forgetting?
Well, we're sitting here on the 10th of August recording, and the Brewers just came back again to win their 9th in a row. So, I mean, this is an incredible run that the Brewers have been able to put on. Obviously, you're thinking that Uke is looking down at this smiling because they just find a new way to win every single day.
There's been some incredible plays, getting guys picked at the plate.
Absolutely.
Just, unbelievable. My buddy Keith, he's a fan of the Newsa-Cast. He's a letter carrier. We were talking about this. Are they peaking too early, or are we good? Because they're playing some incredible baseball. But my fear is, can you keep this up till the end?
Here's my theory. We have a lot of guys hurt right now, and new guys are coming out, and they're, the next guy steps up, and that's only going to help them down the road. So that mentality that nobody gives up, what is it? The friendship. I forgot what they called it. I just read about it. They call it the friendship team or whatever it is. I don't necessarily think there's a peak. I think you learn to play throughout the season with each other, and it's just like hockey playoffs. It's a whole new season then. So I don't think they're peaking too early. I think they're figuring things out. They have an amazing coach in Murph. Even if he likes to have pancakes in his back pocket, they have an amazing coach, and they're going on runs. When you get these guys back, get the Miz back. You get some of these pitchers back. Gassner might be coming back as well. And then Jackson Achuriel will come back. I'm just going to enjoy it. I don't think they're peaking too early. Yeah.
All right. Well, good. I feel better. You talked me into it.
All right.
Keith kind of had the same thing. So that was just me probably being a little bit of a worry wart.
There you go. Well, yeah, stop it. Stop it and
All right.
enjoy it.
We'll do. We'll
All
do.
right. What are you never forgetting, Joe?
Well, Tosh, I had to mention it. I can't forget it, and I know you can't either. But it's been 30 years since Jerry Garcia passed away.
Absolutely.
August 9th. It'll be 30 years. You and I were at the last Dead show in Chicago last. Yeah, there you go, Tosh. I know this is an audio, but Tosh has his Grateful Dead shirt on, and listened to a lot of Jerry, and the Grateful Dead 60 took place a week or two ago, which was pretty cool. Billy Strings killed it. Trey played with John Mayer for the first time, and Trey's band did an incredible Mission in the Rain. Just, I don't know. It's just for somebody at that thing just said how amazing it was that just this one guy comes along, and I don't think you're ever going to just forget the music. It's alive and well. The next generation is just picking it up. You and I see a lot of music, so many of these bluegrass bands, that whether they're mild bands or just bands that come to Poplar Hall, they all play Grateful Dead music. It's really cool to see. It's basically I feel like he would never take credit for it, but one guy kind of started this whole movement, and he had a huge influence on it. Absolutely. For sure. So you can never forget Jerry Garcia and just, I guess, broadly Grateful Dead music.
Yeah. I was listening to a podcast that had John Mayer on, and they were talking about how he fell in love with the music and just by circumstance got hooked up with the Dead and Company. And he said he learned 150 songs in 6 months or something. It's amazing. So he's really pulling along that cart, pulling along the horse, and keeping the Grateful Dead music alive. So
it's one of the most amazing things in the whole Grateful Dead story is how John Mayer, and I've always liked John Mayer, but he's kind of a pop guy who was on the radio. The girls loved him, that kind of thing. How he took to the Grateful Dead, but not only, he took to that music and went all in his just care and gentleness and just of the music, and he's taken it to the next level. Him and Bobby, it was, I don't know if cute's the right word, but it was really, really cool. I was at Grateful Dead 60 and Bobby's playing, he dropped his pick and John just walked over. They're playing, they're jamming out. He bends down, picks it up, hands it back to Bobby, and Bobby just keeps playing like he never missed a beat. But he just, I don't know, just sort of signify that he just really cares, and you can just feel it and see it. This next generation, like we said, is catching on to it. And I don't know, it's a really cool thing. There's just nothing like music. It speaks to you on a different level.
Absolutely. That is definitely a good one, Joe. I appreciate that one for sure.
Yeah, definitely. So, well, Tosh, as Jerry always said as he hopped off the stage, it's always a hoot. And that's why we say it here. This another podcast comes to an end, but it is always a hoot, Tosh.
Absolutely.
Thanks for listening to the Newsa-Cast. We appreciate your support in our journey to highlight and support youth sports in Northeast Wisconsin. Help us grow by subscribing wherever you get your podcasts or sharing the Newsa-Cast on social media. A huge thank you to Digstown for all the music in today's episode. Catch a gig, find them on Spotify, or check them out at digstownrocks.com. One of the best ways to help us grow the show is to leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcast and Spotify. It really helps our visibility. This Newsa-Cast was produced by Polywave Studios.